right there and then. He accepts Islam. Not only does he accept Islam right there and then, we're talking the 8th year after Islam. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, he makes him the wali, the governor of Mecca. It's a strange circumstance that you see the habits of Rasulullah, why Rasulullah did what he did. Atab ibn Asid is made governor of Mecca. This is the house of God, the city of God. He is just converted to Islam. There are some companions who have been there since the early days of Hijrah, before Hijrah. There are Ansar next to him. No? And yet, Rasulullah makes this young man governor. Not only does he make him governor, but he places him in the position of governorship. And the history describes that Atab ibn Asid, he was very, very compassionate to the believers. Very compassionate. Anyone who was a believer was compassionate to them, benevolent to them. And those who were munafiq, those people who were causing trouble in the community of Islam, he was very hard on them. He dealt with them sternly. He wouldn't give them a chance. He rooted them out and he dealt with them sternly. Look at the intelligence of such people. Not only that, but the Rawi, he says, the history, the Hisham, he says that this young man, Atab ibn Asid, Rasulullah, when he hired him to become the governor of Mecca, guess how much he paid? Only 2 dirham a day. 2 dirham every single day, which is nothing. It's basically nothing. He paid him basically nothing. But when the Rawi describes Atab ibn Asid himself, he says, I learned from Rasulullah that I basically needed only 2 articles of clothing, 2 articles of food every day. I didn't need anything else, such that if anyone would come to buy my political position, I would not need them. I couldn't be influenced by anybody. 2 dirham a day was enough. 2 dirham a day was enough for me. They say that he remained the governor of Mecca until the day he died, which was around the time of the second Khalif, approximately. If I'm not making a mistake. He remained a long time. Why is this relevant? Why am I telling you this? Because think about how Rasulullah, after the 8th year after Hijrah, is going to leave the world with the vision that he has come to proclaim. How he's going to provide for the rest of humanity this message now that has been completed by him. And indeed, after the Hajjatul Wada, the Khum, etc., all of these things that are going to happen, every act of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is a message and a lesson for us. So think just from the appointment of Dar al-Zehra, what we have. Don't assume that because somebody is a Muslim from long ago or a so-called supporter from long ago that they are going to be suitable for a position of leadership. Look, not only that, but don't think that age necessarily is a mean here. And we'll talk about this tomorrow, inshallah, to some degree. Not only that, but if a person truly has accepted Islam and has become a Muslim, and you can see that they have the qualities in them for leadership, then you should certainly give them the responsibility. In fact, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is teaching us the legacy of how to pass on, how to create a succession, how to leave behind something. And indeed, that's something that you have to consider here, that every community should consider. And Brother Arif was nice enough to say that, well, I've done a lot for the community in North America because of Imam. I don't know about all that. Don't take his word on that in this case. In this case, I'm sure he's a truly honest and trustworthy man. But when it came to what he just said right now, I'm not so sure. Regardless, what are we trying to do? Ask yourselves this question. Today, your center that you have built here in Cincinnati, after years and years of struggle, giving the community a place to come, first of all, do salah. Most important thing, salah to pray. Another thing, recitation of the Quran, the most important thing. Have a school for your children, even if it is on a Saturday or Sunday, the most important thing. Majlis al-Hussein, Milad, etc. All these things. Socializing. See, there's a basketball court. I'm a soccer player, but I can shoot too. No problem. It's all good. All of these things that you're doing in your community, that you're creating, is it for today now? Is it for tomorrow, for next year? Or Or are you thinking 20 years down the road, 30 years down the road, 40 years, 50 years, when you're long gone from this world, and Dar-e-Zehra is still going to be sitting? We have to consider these things because Rasul thought long term. He didn't just think tomorrow. He didn't just think what is for the next year or for the next 4 years. He thought for the next generations. He left behind a legacy, a program of succession. And you see indeed that al-Athar, the 12 Imams who come after Rasulullah, they are a reflection of that program, of that institution that you have in front. And that's why when Rasulullah came to give his message, he says, I'm going to leave behind a system for you that will address each insan and it will address society at the same time. And that's what we're trying to do. Dar-e-Zehra, what is your goal here? Your goal is to provide an environment for each of you, the mu'mineen, the mu'adeen, to come and to pray and cultivate your own faith, right? To do salah, to worship. In the month of Ramadan, to come and break your fast together, read dua, etc. That builds up your own personal spirituality, your connection to Allah. But to build society, community, togetherness. Not only that, but in Cincinnati, in this entire area which you serve, your communities are served by this center. If anything is needed by the Shia to represent Muslims in society, who are they going to turn to? Hopefully Dar-e-Zehra. Yes? So there's a broader role. And that's what Islam does. Islam addresses two aspects of Islam. The inside, the internal, the personal aspect, your spirituality, and it also addresses the interpersonal, outside. And for this, we have two things that we have to consider. And I know it's Friday evening. I'm sure you all work and went to school. The little ones, I'm sure, the school started already. You know, Maya? Yeah. Yeah, I know, me too. Back to work. I was working today, alhamdulillah, after I arrived. So I know it is Friday and we're all tired. Luckily, your programs are before Maghrib. Most programs go after Maghrib, which means I'm asleep already. So the system that Islam creates for you has two aspects, I said. One is inside of you, one is outside of you. And to address those things, there are two issues that have to be addressed. One is morality, what you consider to be moral, ethical, what Allah approves of, what He disapproves of. And the other thing is legality. Right? So morality versus legality. These two things exist inside of all of us and relate to us as people and everything around us. But they're not the same. They're not the same. When you talk about something being legal or not legal, you're talking about it in the outside world. You're talking about it in the outside world. Not only are you talking about it in the outside world, but if you talk about enforcing it upon people, this is illegal, I have to enforce some law. That is externally done. Enforcement of law is an issue of legality. Tomorrow, God forbid, if you run the red light, if you run a red light, you speed, or you break some other law, what's going to happen? You will be punished. The law will come and it will be executed against you, and you will face the consequence. So there is legality, it has to be enforced externally. But on the other hand, morality, do you have to enforce morality? How do you enforce morality? You cannot enforce morality. Morality is inside the inside. It is deep embedded inside of the inside. Now let me ask this question of you. Can a person live by the legal code of a place where they their country, their nation, their community, and be fully a legally conforming human being, and at the same time be immoral? Of course they can. Of course they can. You can, on the guise of outside, look like you are legal, you're law-abiding, you're a citizen, but inside you're morally corrupt. No. And that's why Islam doesn't just talk about one realm, it talks about two realms. It talks about what is the internal side, internal aspect, and the outer aspect. But you see the differences between these two. One, you can enforce the law. You can enforce people abide by what is the rule. This is the issue of legality. But morality, you cannot. Why? Because what is enforceable on morality is a matter of personal responsibility. Meaning, I feel responsible for something higher to be moral as a human being. Yes. One without the other, does it matter? No, it doesn't. You have to have both together simultaneously. That's why when you talk about any system for concern, it has to include both morality and legality at the same time, internal and external. And that's why when concern decides to do anything, they consider all of these factors. Anything that relates to the life of this world is going to relate to that. And what we do is you'll notice this. Try this little exercise, yeah? Do a complexity. How many of you have done complexity impact analysis? Complexity impact analysis is this. Is that you look at the complexity of the act that you're trying to do because you want some result. You want some endpoint, some goal to be fulfilled, and you want to assess the impact of that goal on your life. Okay? So you can have low complexity, low impact actions. All right? How many people eat donuts? You're all lying. Nobody eats donuts over here? Man, everybody eats donuts. Come on. On Saturday morning, you go and you have donuts with coffee. Okay, you're probably not coffee drinkers, chai drinkers, yes. They have coffee and a donut. Okay? Let's all agree that we all eat donuts. There are 2 donut places here in Cincinnati. Like the rest of the country, Krispy Kreme, Dunkin'. Okay? Now I live here, wherever this is, Westchester. Close. Westchester. I live in Westchester. There's a Dunkin' Donuts 1 mile to the east of me, and there's a Krispy Kreme 1 mile to the west of me. So Dunkin' Donuts east, Krispy Kreme west, each 1 mile away. Okay? What is the complexity of my choice in taking Dunkin' Donuts over Krispy Kreme? No complexity, right? There's no complexity here. It's a donut. It's not a terribly complex decision. Either I eat the Dunkin' Donuts or the main donut, which I really like, or Krispy Kreme. I go for the ones that are really fresh. Let's see the kids. They're going to get. You guys are not. The parents are not. They're going to say, "Let's go get donuts." So, or I get Krispy Kreme when they come fresh out of the oven. They're really hot. They melt in your mouth. Really, yeah. It's not a complex decision. What's the impact of it? Next to nothing. Because if I don't eat a donut, who cares? Low complexity, low impact. Who cares the choice I make? In life, we make these choices. We make these choices every day, every moment, every second. We are making this choice. Now, what about if it's a low complexity, high impact choice? You'll say, well, what is that? Okay. Well, in the month of Ramadan, you fast. How complex is it to fast? Not complex. It's not complex to deny yourself food and drink. It's not that complex. How complex is it to pray 5 times a day? It's not that complex. You've been doing it since you were 5 years old, 6 years old, 7 years old. It's not that complex. But what's the impact? Impact is great. Impact is phenomenal, right? Low complexity, very high impact. See the generosity of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But he says, I'm going to allow you to do these basic things in the daily life that are so easy to do. The complexity of doing them is not that high. You can do it relatively easily. Anybody can do it, and the impact of it is going to be extremely high. Very beneficial, engaging. What about if you have something that has high complexity but low impact? High complexity, low impact. Not a lot of things that are like this. Okay? There are not a lot of things that are very high complexity that have low impact. It's just our world is not built that way. Okay? Some of that, this example can be applied to the useless things in life that we engage in that have no benefit to us in our lives. Let me give you an example. Let's say I would like to get my Krispy Kreme donut every day without anyone having to go out and drive, and I don't want to get out of bed. So I build a robot, and the robot comes and gives me the Krispy Kreme donut, and he puts it in my mouth, and I haven't even gotten out of bed. She's looking at me like I've actually done it. No, I haven't actually done it. I'm saying if you actually did. High complexity, not easy to build it up, right? Not easy to put in all that information into it. Very, very low impact. Who cares about eating a donut in bed? Nobody cares about it. You guys are probably eating to the beer, so I just go over right? Don't ever call this guy again. High complexity, low impact. Now the last one, high complexity, high impact. These are the difficult ones. These are the ones where the circumstances not only relate to the subject, meaning what you're trying to do, who is involved, but you're trying to determine all the factors that influence it, and at the same time, the consequences 4, 5, 6, 7 steps down the road. That is a high complexity, high impact sort of circumstance. And if you make a bad choice, or any choice that you do make, not only will it affect you, but its impact is so high, it will affect everyone around you as well. Imagine those circumstances. Do we not make these decisions in life? We make these decisions all the time. And they're the most difficult decisions to make. Take, for example, just in the life, you want to see the best examples of the Imams. Take the example of the Imam al-Hasan al-Mujtaba alayhi salatu wasalam. Some people ask the question, why did he do what he did? Why? Sulaiman ibn Surad was one of the Tawari, one of the people who, after the events of Karbala, he was one of the Shaqqa of Khamis. After he was released from prison in Louisiana, or after being held in confinement, he came out, he rose up. He is reported, went to Imam al-Mujtaba, Imam al-Hasan, and he said, Ya Rasulullah, what is it that you have done? What have you done by signing with Muhammad? Why have you done this? Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, he says, I have done what is bitter, I'm paraphrasing. He says, I have done what is difficult and bitter, but what has saved all of you from your blood you shall shed. He says, but prepare yourself because the time will come. Imam Hassan was so wise. He says, prepare yourself. The time is going to come. You're going to have to rise. But right now it's not. Right now it's not that time. Imam Hassan, some people ask that why did he do what he did? The answer is Imam Hussein alayhi salam, Imam Zain al-Abidin, Imam Bakr alayhi salam, any of the Imam al-Hadi, they were in the place of their uncle, of his Imam Hussein's brother, Imam Hassan. Would they have done the same thing? And they would have done exactly the same thing. There would have been no difference. Because Allah's wisdom, it sees the circumstance around and sees what? 10 steps down, 100 steps down, 1,000 years. You think people walking to Karbala today for the day of Ibrahim in 2 days' time, those millions of people, who are they on the back of? Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba. Yes, Imam Hussein for sure. Imam Hassan is the one who set this up. He is the one who laid the ground for the revolution of Imam Hussein, for the mission of Imam Hussein, for what Imam Hussein achieved. Why? By demonstrating that what now has become the political arm of Islam, or the political agency of Islam, is separate from the divine what Allah has chosen. So now be very careful at understanding or taking what is considered legal in the eyes of society because of this despotic regime, and what is Allah's morality. Understand those differences. See how Imam clarifies it. He warns us. He says, be very careful. And now Imam Hussein comes. And he sees that with Muawiyah, there was not much that his brother could do. But at the time to stand against Yazid, and you see, even in the brilliance of his action, the brilliance of Imam Hussein, his strategy, that when he left Medina, did he receive any letters from Kufa? On the 28th of Rajab, when he leaves Medina and he's going, the only thing he declares is, I will not do bay'ah of Yazid. A man like me does not do bay'ah of Yazid. I will not. He's Imam. It is not until approximately the middle of the month of Ramadan, the 15th of Ramadan, approximately, that those letters start to come from Kufa. All this time has gone by. Rajab has finished, Sha'ban has finished, now middle of Ramadan has come, and now he's getting the letters. He's in Mecca, he's receiving these letters from Kufa. Not one letter, not two letters, not three letters. 1,000 letters. So now, with this pledge of support coming from Kufa that we need an Imam, come to us, Imam then leaves and goes. And even the man asks him, they say there's a man who asks him on one of the way, on the stops to Karbala, that Ya Rasulullah, what should you out of the haram of your Rasul, of your grandfather? You left Medina, this is your home, this is your birthplace, this is where you've been raised. Why did you leave? Put down all these letters. He said, because you called me. You called me to come. I didn't come here of my own. I didn't. And even when he reaches Karbala and he realizes 30,000 are standing in front of him ready to spill his blood, he says, leave me. I do not want to fight against you. I am not here to fight against you or spill your blood. That is not why I have come. Let me go in peace, I will leave you be. So you see his strategy. You see the long-term thinking of Ayman al-Bahar. And how they plan and how they decide what is the appropriate course. And that's why when they leave behind a legacy, they say you must understand the world in which you live. And this is what is key for us. My dears, if we are leaving something for our children, that's our goal. Believe me, there is good in knowledge, there is good in understanding, there is good in everything that we do, and may it bring reward and blessing and nothing but raising our status in the eyes of Allah so we can be of the soldiers of Imam al-Mahdi, Ajalallahu ta'ala, Ajabu Sharif. But its impact is going to be far less if we do not make it last. It must last. It must persist. It must have longevity. And it must be such that when you think about it, anything you leave behind, it must be rooted in truth, in haqq. It should not get muddied. It should not get distorted or perverted by anything that will come from outside to mix with it. It cannot lose its value in terms of its effect. And that's what you see in Islam today. Do we not see this today? That today the Shia have so many practices, we do so many things, that we say are from al-Bayt, they have nothing to do with them. Their culture, their tradition, their national practice, religions that have crept into our religion, and that we call it the Shia. Why is that? And sometimes good practices coming in, no problem. Good practices are good to incorporate. They're laudable. They produce goodwill, benevolence, generosity. But there are practices that we should not be incorporating into our practice, into our tradition, into our heritage. This goes for me as an individual, the same way. I will do this the same way. That slowly, I will feel the impact of somebody else on me. And what I do, maybe in the first year of exposure, is still true to my tradition, to what I believe in, but to my religion, but after 10 years, it may not be. It may have changed very subtly. I cannot even imagine it's changing. So that's why whatever legacy remains, whatever we see today, is because of preservation. And preservation, without allowing anything from the outside to come in, we have to teach this. That goes by knowing what is inside and what is outside. And beginning by understanding knowledge. That knowledge is everything. If anything we've understood about our deen, about the way of Ahlul Bayt, about what Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he says, I am the city of knowledge and Ali is its gate. Why city of knowledge? Why not city of Iman? Indeed, he is the city of Iman. City of Taqwa. City of so many things, but city of knowledge, why? Because knowledge is what makes us human. If knowledge is also that which will cause us to falter, unfortunately, we see it. Amir al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salatu wassalam. He says, there are three types of people when it comes to knowledge. It is reported, he says there are three types of people when it comes to knowledge. He says, فَعْرِفْهُمْ بِأَعْيَانِهِمْ وَصِفَاتِهِمْ. And he uses very specific words. He says, know them. When he says أَعْيَانِهِمْ, he says, know them from their true nature, their very, very basic nature. Know them from their very intrinsic self, who these people are. And know them from their characteristics, the qualities that they have. He says the first of them is the one who acquires knowledge because of ignorance, because he wants to be. Not because he wants to remove ignorance, but because he wants ignorance and because he wants to argue with everybody. That's the first person. This is the person who will sit amongst people of knowledge, pretend to have knowledge inside of them, but they have no piety, no belief inside of them. Is recording, he says, these are the people Allah will crush their noses. He will crush their noses and he will sever completely. Take, for example, somebody who comes and tells others. I've had this been asked of me before in different communities where there are multiple centers. Okay, and it is happening a lot. They're in a community where there were lots, one center, now there are 4 centers. It's happening everywhere. Everywhere it's happening. I got a call from somebody who said to me that, oh, my relative is telling me that if you go to such and such a center, your salat will not be accepted. Your salat, and they have a hadith of some sort. They say, based on this hadith from this and this person, Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq, Imam al-Khatib would say your salat is wrong. If you fast on the day of a month of Ramadan and you come to that center to do your iftar, your whole song is bad. Don't go and listen to the Majlis of Imam Hussein in that center. Allah, why? What gave you the right to, first of all, quote hadith and then cast aspersions on a particular center? Whether that center is correct or not, or is doing things the way you want to do it or not, what allowed you to do this? And it scares people. The person who contacted me, she was scared. She says, is my salat really gone? This person I'm talking to is relevant. And I asked her some details and I said, no, listen, what right does he have to say these things to you? Sometimes even a little bit of knowledge will cause more ignorance, unfortunately, and will cause people to argue with others and dispute with others. They describe when Imam, I said this to you, think about Attab ibn Asid. Attab ibn Asid, the governor, this young governor who Rasul makes into, has made him as a leader, as a supervisor over Allah's haram and Allah's city. Now think, when Imam Sadiq alayhi salatu was salam, when he was sharing, there are 2, and everybody didn't know who's the next Imam. In those days, the Banu Abbas had not taken power and were oppressing Ahlul Bayt. And particularly when Imam Sadiq died, they saw that there's a void. So there were spies watching the Shia, there were people oppressing, these things were happening. So these 2 companions, they're sitting in the house, they come to the house of Imam Sadiq to find out who is the next Imam. They say Abdullah ibn Ja'far. Abdullah ibn Ja'far, he, the second eldest son of Imam Sadiq. They call him al-Aflah. Abdullah al-Aflah, he proclaimed Imam after Imam Sadiq. So Ismail, who's the eldest, Abdullah, who's second oldest, Ismail is taken as Imam. But Abdullah al-Aflah, he proclaims Imam. So these 2 men, they come in. One of them described, he says, I went to Abdullah ibn Ja'far, and I asked him, I said, oh son of the Imam, can you tell me what is the amount of zakat that has to be paid on 200 of something that you have? He says, you have to pay 2.5. 2.5% approximately is the zakat. Approximately is the zakat. 140. Here's another question. That 200 or whatever you're doing, 200 camel, I don't remember the exact example, I don't think of it in the Bible. He said, what if the amount of it goes down below 100? So the amount of whatever commodity you have goes down below 100 or something like that, very low. How much do you pay zakat on it? He says, still, you would pay 2.5%, 1/40th, the zakat that will get paid to it. The man, the companion, he says, immediately I knew we were in trouble. He says, I knew we were in trouble by this answer. The answer, because for zakat is only due once you reach a certain amount of that commodity. Below that commodity, you do not have to pay zakat. So clearly, Abdullah didn't know what he was talking about, and he's giving wrong answers. Absolutely wrong answers. And so finally, these 2 men, they leave worried, perplexed. Where is the next Imam? How do we find our answers? They keep walking until finally they notice somebody's following. The one companion who's giving the riwayah, he says, I noticed that somebody's following me. I nudged my companion. I told him, look, separate from me, go your own way. I see somebody's following. I think it is a spy of the regime. They mean me harm. Go save yourself. Companion leaves. His companion, the other one, keeps walking. The man behind keeps following. The companion of Masada follows him until they come to a house. They open the door. He says, Musa bin Ja'far. He says, I see Musa bin Ja'far. He says, Ilayya ilayya. La ila al-Mu'tazila. La ila al-Murji'a. Don't go to the Mu'tazila. Don't go to the Murji'a. Don't go to the Fatahiyya. Don't go to this person. Don't. Come to me. Come to the Imam. Come to the Imam. Come to the Imam. The companion, he says, I asked He says, I asked Musa ibn Ja'far, he says, are you the next Imam? The Imam al-Qadim's answer is, I'm not saying. I asked him again, are you the next Imam? Your father has died, are you the next Imam? He says, Musa ibn Ja'far said to me, I am not saying that, I am not proclaiming that. So the companion, he says, I realized I need to ask the question differently. He said, I asked him, do you have an Imam? Is there somebody who is your Imam? He said, Musa ibn Ja'far, he said, no, I do not have an Imam. He says, immediately I knew that this is the Imam. He said, I asked him all the questions I had, about zakat, about homes, about this, about that. Every question I had, I asked, and he answered. And he said, I knew immediately. So you see, why am I telling you this? That inside even the house of Imam, look how people can deviate. Don't think that just because you have the haqq and the debate automatically Allah is giving you the path of guidance, the path of salvation. Inshallah. It is hard work, it is responsibility. So Imam Ali alayhi salam, he says the first group of people are those who do it, lil-jahl wal-khatm. Those people who want to increase ignorance and argue with others. Imam, he says, the second group of people are those people who they use knowledge, and when they sit amongst people of knowledge, they cower and they're humble. When there are people who are more knowledgeable than them, they sit like that. But when they are near people who are less knowledgeable than them, ostensibly, people who are lower than them, they sit on top of their head. They command them, they push them up. He says about these people, he says they go and they associate with the rich and the powerful people of society. The rich people. He says they eat from the rich, and when they eat from the rich, what happens to them? He says they destroy their faith. They destroy their faith. Look at what he's teaching the alim. He says the alim, you want to know true alim? He's the simplest of the simple. He's not going to be sitting in the door of the rich people. He's not going to sit in the door of the commanders and the leaders and those sorts of people trying to eat and benefit from the richness and the affluence of society. He says these are the people who Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will make their vision blind. He will make them blind. They will not see clearly. Imam, he says the third group of people, this is the third group of people, this is these are people who themselves in deepening their knowledge. Tafaqquh, it means immersion inside of knowledge, achieving its depth. He says they walk about with heads bent in humility. These are the people who they are always afraid. Why are they always afraid? Because they are afraid of overstepping their limit, going beyond what they actually know. This is us. We want to acquire knowledge. We want to deepen our understanding. We don't want to go beyond what we should. We should act within the framework. Today's event, and that's why you see, Imam, he says, these are the people of tafaqquh, of deep understanding. He says they are familiar with the people of their time. He says it's very clear. They are familiar with the people of their time. They know the world around them. This is the legacy of the Hadith. This is what we have to understand. When we build something, when we cultivate our deen, when we cultivate our communities, we have to have this sort of understanding. Who are we surrounded by? What are the factors and circumstances? And what happens 10 steps down the road, 50 years down the road? What are we actually building? And that's why A'immat al-Athhar have built this legacy for us. Why? Because in the end, you want to hold on to what is uncorrupted. So always sources, ideas. This is the legacy of Hadith. Turn to the right source. Companion once came to Imam al-Baqir alayhi salatu wasalam. It's reported, he says to our Shia, he says the strong should never harm the weak. He says the rich should be kind to the poor. He says, be trustworthy, be loyal to your brother like you to yourself. Be loyal to ourselves the same way, be loyal to others. He says, ensure that you follow what we say, and if you don't know what we are saying, ask. Don't assume. Ask and find out what is the truth, especially in matters of religion. Find out what is being said. This is the system, the legacy of Ahlul. And do so in such a manner so that you cultivate not only the inside, but the practice of what is outside. So you create a system for yourself, and that's what we want to do. There is a difference between having goals and having a system. And I will finish with this, inshallah. That when a person has a goal, what is the goal? The goal is a fantasy. I'm not saying what they're going to speak, all go back home and say, oh, shit, saying that they have goals. No, I'm not saying what that goals. Understand the difference between having a goal and creating a system. A goal is a target for you to reach. Why do I say it's a fantasy? Because you keep thinking about hitting that goal. Once you hit that goal, you consider your job done. But maybe nothing has changed, right? Let's say your goal is you don't have money. Your goal is to get money. You work hard, you get some money, that's it, you've achieved your goal. But at the same time, what have you done? You accrue debt, cause losses, cause damage, hurt other people, etc., etc. You achieved your goal, but what happened? You didn't look at the consequences. The trail of disaster that you left behind. Yes? That is a goal. Goals are just a simple target, whereas a system, it teaches you about a process. Step by step, how do you get to the place that you want to get to? Not only that, but what is required from both inside of you and outside of you. You do this in daily life. I need to be healthy, I need to keep my sleep, I need to be well nourished in terms of my food so that I can go to college and study the books and get a degree and get a job. That's a process. That is a system. And that system will tell you that when you fall off, when something goes wrong, how you solve it. This is Deen. Deen is exactly this. It's just a system. And that's why building systems is much better than saying, go out and get a goal. Because a system inherently has a goal. A system is what teaches you that this is what you do in life. When you take a step forward, this is how you do it. And God forbid, if you step backwards, how do you reconcile those two steps? How do you fix it and move forward? This is the legacy of Ahlul. This is what Imam does. Imam Hussein. He shows us this step by step. I already told you his strategy. It was not without thinking, not without wisdom, it was always. And that's why when he arrives into Karbala, you notice that on the days before, the day of Ashura, Rawi, he says that Imam Hussein is standing, he sees a rider come. The rider approaches, the man tells Imam, he says, somebody's coming. Imam says, I know who it is. They ask who is it. Imam says, this is my friend Habib ibn Mawad. It's fine that he got out. It's not his vision. Darawi, he says, Habib ibn Mawad arrives. He greets Imam with tears. And then he looks at Imam and he says, Ya Rasulullah, do you give me permission to walk over to the tents and say salam to the daughters of Rasulullah? This is maybe the 7th or 8th Ramadan. Imam Hussein says, go. I don't know why it goes. He comes to the tent. From outside of the tent, he says, Assalamu alaikum ya banati Rasulillah. My salam on you, O daughters of Rasulullah. When the voice goes into the tent, Sayyidah Zainab, she turns to Ali ibn Abi Talib and she says, my nephew, whose voice is this? He says to her, Ya Ummah, this is Habib ibn Mawad. He has finally come. She says to him, go outside, go to the tent and give him our son. And then comes out of the tent, he sees Habib ibn Mawad. He says, my aunt and the ladies and daughters of Rasulullah say salam alaikum to you, alaikum assalam to you. And he says this to Habib ibn Mawad falls and begins to weep. He says, Man anna Rasulullah. Who am I and who are the daughters of Rasulullah? Who am I and who are the daughters of Rasulullah, that they are replying to my salam. These are the same daughters of Rasulullah. They tie them with ropes and place the chains around their necks. And these are the days of the Imam, you say. But they are also the days of the Aqid, the Zayd, very well. He describes that the ladies are taken prisoners after the day of Ashura, taken to Kufa and then Sham. In Sham, they are placed in the prison in the Hariba. He describes that they are placed in a stable, in a home that has broken walls and no roof on top. The sun will beat down on Rasulullah, causing them to be burned from the rays of the sun. Day in and day out, they are kept in this khariba, in this prison, until finally then the news reaches into the castle of Yazid. One of the ladies from inside of the castle, she descends down and towards the Rawi, he said she brings with her her maids and her servants. They approach the door of the prison. The door of the prison is open. Rawi, he says that the servants, they place the seat, a chair for this exalted lady from the castle, from the royal house. She sits down on the chair in front of the door of the prison, looking inside the prison. She sees the men and ladies, all of them huddling in one corner, backs against the wall, shielding themselves from the rays of the sun. And Imam Sajjad is inside as well. And the lady on the chair, this royal lady, she looks inside and she says to them, Min ayna biladi antum? From what country? Where are you coming from? What type of prisoners are you? One of the ladies from inside, she answered. She says, Nahnu min al-Madinah. From the Medina. The lady on the chair, she asks again, Al-Madinah al-Mudun kathira. There are many cities. Which city have you been brought from? Where are you coming from? The same lady from inside. She answers her and she says, Min Madinati Rasulillah. Min Madinati Nabi. We are from the city of Rasulullah, Madinah Munawwara. Upon hearing this, the lady sitting on the chair stands up and then descends down and sits down on the ground, on the sand of the ground. The lady from inside asks her, why have you gotten down from your seat and sat down on the ground? She replies, because you have told me that you are from the city of Rasulullah, from that Medina. You are the honored people from there. She asks of her, she says, tell me about Medina. I want to know about one particular house. The lady inside the prison, she says, which house do you want to know about? The lady, the royal woman, she says to her, أريد أن أعرف عن بيت أمير المؤمنين علي ibn Abi Talib. What has happened to the house of Ali ibn Abi Talib that was in Medina? The answer from the same lady inside the prison comes. لقد خلفناها تنعى أهلها. We have left it behind It is mourning for its members. It is mourning for its family. The royal lady, she said, إني أريد أن أعرف عن سيدي ومولاي الإمام الحسين. Where is Al-Hussein ibn Ali? Tell me, what is the news about him? Where is Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas? أسألك أين قاسم بن الحسن وعلي بن الحسين? The lady inside the prison, she says, وإن سألت عن الحسين فرأسه عند زوجك يزيد. The lady in the, she says, if you are asking about my master, my brother Al-Hussein, his severed head is with your husband Yazid. This is him, the wife of Yazid, who has come down from the palace. وإن سألت عن أبي الفضل العباس فعلى المجرعة مربوط الجبين قطيع اليسار واليمين. Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas, the body was left near the Mashra'a, near the river, left and right arm severed from the body. وأما علي الأكبر فقد قطعوه بأسيافهم عربا. They cut him to pieces with their sword. وأما القاسم بن الحسن فقد ضربوا رأسه فرقتين. As for Al-Qasim ibn al-Hassan, you want to know, they struck him on the head with their sword, cutting his body, his small body, to the ground. Finally, the lady Hind, she asks and she says, أين سيدتي ومولايتي أم كلثوم وأين زين العابدين? Where is كلثوم? The lady in the prison, she says, كلثوم ها هنا معنا وزين العابدين علي بن الحسين مريضا عليلا. زين العابدين علي بن الحسين is with eyes sick and he is still in that state in the Khalifa of Sham. Then finally she looks into the prison and with a quivering voice she says, أين سيدتي ومولاتي زينب بنت علي? Where is Zainab, the daughter of Ali? And the voice from inside of the prison, she says, أنا زينب أنا زينب اللي يحجون عني. I am the Zainab. Did you not recognize me? Oh, and I am Zainab. سيعلم الذين ظلموا قال محمد يوم انقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون. اللهم إنا نسألك وندعوك ونستمتع عليك بحق الزرع وأبيها وبعلها وبنيها وسر المستودع فيها ولعن الله الظالمين. اللهم شافي كل مريض. اللهم رد كل غريب. اللهم فك كل أسير. اللهم غير سوء حالنا بحسن حالك يا كريم. اللهم وفقنا لمراضيك وجنبنا معاصيك وثبت أقدامنا على صراطك المستقيم وخذ بأيدينا إليك يا أرحم الراحمين وفرج عنا يا الله فرجا عاجلا قريبا كلمح البصر يوم أقرب من ذلك. واصرف علينا صلاة المسلمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين. يا حسين 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 يا حسين.
دربار یزیدی में तेरा खुतबा सुनाना.
10 साल पहले 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 10
धनुष तीर तलवार आहजार क्या काट सकते हैं वो नूर को ऐ कुफरान करबला लबैक 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 या सारदुल हुसैन लबैक 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 या सारदुल हुसैन गलतों से आ रही है ये आवाज जिब्रील बेगौर से कफन है वो इस्लाम के कतील ज़ैनब हुई बेदा तो नहीं ज़ख्म की सफील ज़ैनब हुई बेदा तो नहीं ज़ख्म की सफील उर्वत ने मार डाला है ज़हरा का नूरैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन अब्बास नामुवर के लहू से धुला हुआ अपनी हुसैनियत का अलम है खुला हुआ निकलो घरों से मातम में सरवर बपा हुआ निकलो घरों से मातम में सरवर बपा हुआ होने न कभी पा होने न पाई काम कभी आवाज़ हुसैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन दरिया बड़ा अलम है शेर किरदार बर्छी सितम की हो गई अकबर के दिल के पार उम्मे रबाब कश्म सकीना से बेकरार उम्मे रबाब कश्म सकीना है बेकरार असगर को लेके आ गए मैदान में हुसैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन अल्लाह ने वो शम्र का खंजर वो शाह का सर इनमें लगे दिखाने का माकर धरती तो क्या फलक थी टुकड़े हुआ जिगर धरती तो क्या फलक थी टुकड़े हुआ जिगर सकते में मगरबैन सकते में मशरक़ैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन आले रसूल कैद हुए यामा मुसीबता आले रसूल कैद हुए यामा मुसीबता करबो बला से रुक चली वा मुसीबतें करबो जला से रुक चली वा मुसीबता धुर्रे लगा रही है नहीं वा मुसीबता धुर्रे लगा रही है नहीं वा मुसीबता पाबंदियों के सर पे है लहरा का नूर है लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन मौजे मिलाद शर्म से दामन भिगो गई बाली सकीना हिचकियां ले लेके सो गई खैमे जलेली दाई छिनी शाम आ गई खैमे जलेली दाई छिनी शाम आ गई कमरे में भी हिलाते हैं सैयदानों के बैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन लब्बैक 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 या साहिबुल हुसैन नासिर हुसैन नुसरत शबीर फर्ज है बच्चों में अज़्म असग़र बेशीर फर्ज है माओ ज़ैनब दिलगीर फर्ज है माओ ज़ैनब दिलगीर फर्ज है यानी बाबा हजार तरफ फातिमा हुसैन लब्बैक 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 या सारतुल हुसैन लबैक 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 या सारतुल हुसैन या 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 सैयदी अब्बास या अब्बास या सैयदी अब्बास हाय सकीना हाय सकीना हाय सकीना हाय सकीना या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन या हुसैन
मैया सकीना की ये माँ कहती थी रोकर सदके हो ये मादर मैया सकीना की ये माँ कहती थी रोकर सदके हो ये मादर मैया सकीना की ये माँ कहती थी रोकर सदके हो ये मादर परदेस में माँ लुट गई था राज हुआ घर सदके हो ये मादर मैया सकीना की ये माँ कहती थी रोकर सदके हो ये मादर तेरी उम्मत के जेवर पहन के तेरी उम्मत के जेवर पहन के देखो नाना चली हूँ मैं शाम शाम आए शाम शाम आए शाम शाम आए शाम मैं तेरी कफन तुझको भैया गर सर पे रिदा मेरे होती गर होते खुले हाथ मेरे तेरे जख्मों को हाथों से धोती पाबंदे रसन सर बरहना पाबंदे रसन सर बरहना देखो नाना चली हूँ मैं शाम शाम आए शाम शाम आए शाम शाम आए शाम शाम
إن الله ملائكته يصلون على النبي